Hi, my name's Adam Elliot and I'm responsible for Harvie Krumpet. I'm the writer, director and animator. Harvie's been in my head for over 10 years and we're so glad he's finally out. All my films are biographies and Harvie is the biography of a man who has perpetual bad luck. It took us almost 14 months to shoot Harvie. We did about 17 drafts of the script before we even started making any models and sets. It's probably the most ambitious film I have ever made, but easily the most satisfying. The very first shot in the film is actually the one that brings me the most pain because when we turned up in the morning to shoot that scene of the little house in the snow, we walked in and the set was sort of moving. We realised it was covered in ants and they were eating all our snow. The snow is actually icing sugar.
Hands as big as shovels and hair that smelt of pine needles.
Harvie's father, Marchik, his beard is actually made out of hundreds of little pieces of wire which we had to drill little holes into his face and then super glue in and then paint each hair black. Actually felt like we were doing a bit of hair transplanting. All the mouths in the film are actually little, what we call replacement mouths, which have little magnets on the back. So for Harvie's mother, Liliana, she had about, 12 different mouth shapes. So it meant she could say anything we really wanted her to say. Not that she said much. Harvie's Ugg boots are handmade from a substance called Sculpey, and we had to hand roll each little bit of fur, which took one of my assistants 2 days.
He began to have odd twitches and liked to touch things with his index finger. For no reason at all. You've probably noticed that little toddler Harvie there doesn't have a mouth, and that's because I found that if you give mouths to anyone under the age of about 10, they look more adult. I don't know if that's just something I have trouble with, but yeah, Harvie doesn't grow lips until he's a teenager. Although he's got a little tiny mouth there. Was called a thick. His friend was Bogush.
This is Harvie's friend Bogush. Bogush has trouble with his mucus, and we experimented with all sorts of substances until we found the right one, which ended up being hot glue.
Until Liliana pulled Harvie from school and decided to educate him herself. Although she was illiterate, she knew about facts.
We had a great actor doing Harvie's mother, Liliana, an actor called Julie Forsyth, who was also very versatile. We call her the Meryl Streep of Australia. She also did Harvie's baby cries at the beginning and the Sunday school teachers singing towards the end. All the facts in the film are slightly misspelt, as you'll notice. That's because Harvie can't spell. The way we did those facts was actually just liquid paper on black watercolour paper in my own handwriting. This is a great shot. I love it when Liliana's broom turns into a sausage. There's the house again that was covered in ants. We actually used the same sky right through the film. As animators, we try and find any way to save time.
He liked working with him, but at times felt he needed to be alone with his problems.
That moon was made out of Sculpey.
He'd ponder the world.
Those little pine trees we found at a Christmas tree shop.
And suddenly
with fire, we used about 12 little replacement flames, and then under the snow we stuck a little miniature torch that shone up, and every frame we replaced the flame to get that flickering effect. We found this great spray paint that actually looks like granite when you spray it on, so all the tombstones in the film are actually made of wood sprayed with this substance. This shot of the ship was a very difficult scene to shoot. It took 3 animators 2 days. We had to individually move those waves one frame at a time. Actually, as with many things in the film, the waves were made of wood.
He rented a small house with 11
These 3 houses are made out of a lot of balsa wood,
His name from Harvie
and again the same sky in the background.
to Harvie Krumpet.
We had a lot of fun making these Spotswood dump. We used everything from Barbie's high heels right up to cotton reels and bottle tops. And then we painted each piece one of 7 different colours, a sort of a orangey brown. We wanted a real sort of sepia, antiquated feel to the film.
In the evenings, he'd learn English off an old television he'd found amongst the rubbish.
This scene is one of the first sort of scenes that popped into my head when I was writing the script. I'd always wanted to put into one of my films a Busby Berkeley scene. And for Harvie, it's a real sort of defining moment because he's never seen anything like this, especially on a television he's found amongst the rubbish at the tip. I also like the fact that Harvie puts little curtains on his TV because to him the TV is like a theatrical stage. So Harvie gets knocked out, and this is Harvie's first trip to hospital, which reoccurs throughout the film.
Inserted a steel plate between his scalp and skull and laced it up with 19 stitches. He was left with a scar.
All the stainless steel bed heads are actually made of clear plastic tubing sprayed with silver spray paint.
He left the dump and tried new jobs.
This is Harvie's little pencils, which are made out of little pieces of dowel, hand-painted. This was a fun scene to shoot. We only actually had about 8 pairs of underpants, and they're actually on a cycle. And the lint is actually real lint. All the facts in the film, sort of Harvie's interpretations of what he sees and hears around him. And some are quite true, but others are made up. The golf course is actually made out of teddy bear fur, which we spray painted with green spray paint. And we had a lot of fun here electrocuting Harvie. We used replacement mirrored perspex for the lightning bolts.
But he survived, and even made it into the local newspaper.
Harvie makes it into the newspaper quite a few times throughout his life. When we made the cigarettes, we were actually thinking of using real cigarette butts, but they're a little bit too big. So we got little tubes of plastic which we cut into bits and hand painted.
Actually, the biggest threat to his daily life.
That little ashtray alone took probably a day to make.
He developed asthma. So when
Dr. Greystains is actually based on a friend of mine who looks a little bit similar. Her little cigarette is actually held onto her face with a little tiny magnet. If you freeze that shot, you can actually read Dr. Greystains' diploma on the wall, which actually says that she only has, she's only registered as a podiatrist.
He had to have a puff from his asthma pump.
Here's another shot in the film which, even though it's on screen for just a few seconds, took us incredibly long time to make.
The dangers of smoking were finally revealed.
This shot here of the tram actually took me weeks to sort of work out how I was going to do. I'd never done a moving object to that scale, and we did the old animation trick of using a cycle of buildings that just replaced each other. This joke of the drip connecting to Harvie's head was something we invented on the day. Or my assistant Sophie Raymond came up with that idea. Again, this is a very big set that took us quite a while to make. And this is where Kamal enters the picture, and our sound designer came up with a great idea of, once he'd recorded Kamal's voice, he re-recorded it by putting a speaker in an old school locker to give the feel that Kamal is actually inside that statue somewhere. Kamal, I'd say, would have one of the deepest, most beautiful voices in Australia. As my producer Melanie would say, it's like being dipped in chocolate.
Decided to turn his world upside down and back to front.
Here's a little bit of nudity again. We're very worried about this, a bit of full frontal nudity. It's not very often you see a little plasticine penis on the screen. Kicking of the teacup was something we came up with on the day. Geoffrey Rush gets quite frenetic at this part of the film. I remember the day we recorded him. He was sitting on the edge of his stool, arms flaying around.
He was strangling it.
I'm not sure if that quote is actually true, but I have a feeling it could be.
Despite his enlightenment,
Harvie finds love at this point, and this is Nurse Valerie Burstall. That little testicle I made about 4 times. I couldn't quite get the right shape. And actually now looking at it, I think it's a little bit too dark. Valerie is based on my mother, but don't tell anyone. The little red love hearts in Harvie's eyes. The paint we were using for some reason just wouldn't dry. This is one of the few shots in the film where Harvie and Val are actually wearing different clothes. Harvie's wearing his little ankle basher suit. He was going to have a red bow tie, but I think I was very depressed that week and didn't feel like using colour. That fact about nude dancing is actually, I didn't come up with that. That's a very famous quote by Sir Robert Helpman. As you'll see in the credits at the end, my mum did all the knitting in the film. My mum's got a sort of a similar problem to me, so we were both born with a shake, and it nearly drove her mad knitting those tiny little objects. The poo that comes out of Brian's little plasticine bottom is actually made of balsa wood, sanded and painted white. This is my very first plasticine sex scene, probably my last. For poor old Harvie, it's not too successful though. So they have to adopt, and I decided that they should adopt a little thalidomide girl because I thought, well, they would adopt somebody they can relate to, and because poor Val and Harvie are both afflicted in some way, it'd be good to have somebody like little Ruby come into their lives.
So little limbless Ruby.
I always made sure Ruby had a huge smile on her face. I really wanted the audience to engage with her immediately. Harvie, unfortunately, has his eyes shut in that photograph.
Harvie gave up working and dedicated his time to teaching.
Actually, for this scene, got a graphic designer to design the 70s wallpaper. Harvie and Ruby's balaclavas are actually made out of children's socks.
Always respect the environment.
This is actually one of my favourite shots.
As well as herself.
I think at this point the audience really fall in love with Ruby. Well, I do anyway.
He told her about the beauty of being.
Here's another one of my drawings.
Never ashamed of your
Some more full frontal nudity.
Everybody was unique.
I love the sound effects of Ruby clapping her stumps. I think Peter Walker used coconut shells. Here's Ruby's bedroom. As you can see, Ruby has a fetish for teddy bears. The newspaper headline here, the town goes crazy when the local traffic lights are installed. It's sort of the headline you'd see in the local newspaper. The dental floss here up Harvie's nose is actually cotton, not real dental floss. We found real dental floss was too slippery and shiny. It's true the average person does use 19 miles of dental floss. Apparently the average person, average female also absorbs 3 tubes of lipstick throughout their life.
University and came out a lawyer. Then moved to America.
I really wanted to represent Ruby as, despite her disability, she really is a successful person, and in a way, she doesn't see her disability as a disability. Here, Harvie's one true love is unfortunately taken away, where Val dies suddenly. And poor old Harvie, just as things start to look good, they seem to take a turn for the worst. This is where I think the tone of the film changes, and especially for Harvie, he's lost his one true love, and he's just got little Brian. And as you can see here, which a lot of people miss for some reason, Brian also passes away, and Harvie develops lower bags under his eyes, which he hasn't had before.
When a neighbour found him trying to withdraw.
We had a lot of fun making those Venetian blinds out of balsa wood. And this is the first time I've ever used blue in a film. I'm not sure if that fact is actually true.
So began the last phase.
There's some more teddy bear fur, which we didn't have to paint. Same sky.
He shared a room with a man called
Hamish would have to be my favourite character in the film, and I think the audience really enjoy his presence. That's all real wire shoved up his nose.
He also had Alzheimer's and had recently burnt his ear trying to answer the iron.
The wallpaper we used in the nursing home is actually real wallpaper, which I found covered in dust at the back of a hardware shop. And all the timbers in the film are actually real walnut timbers. We wanted to make the nursing home as authentic as possible.
But Hamish always had his revenge.
They're Harvie's two friends, Ethel on the right and Headley on the left.
Sometimes they'd sneak alcohol into the home.
Here's some more knitting that my mum did. Those little finger puppets are only about 1 centimetre long. As you probably noticed, there's quite a lot of farting at this point of the film.
Less than impressed when they found Harvie the next
Don't know why.
From then on,
I was very worried about that shot. I thought, oh, well, maybe I've gone a little bit too far by having that little finger puppet on Harvie's penis, but I think it gets the most laughs in the film.
Often Harvie escaped at night and took
Barry's Butchery. Barry's named after my Uncle Barry.
They'd spray slogans on shop windows, and on their way home, paint over.
We weren't quite sure which saying they'd use for the brick wall there, but we thought that would be the most appropriate.
Alzheimer's patients were a particular.
They're real twigs stuck in that fake teddy bear fur. The bus stop was fun to make. We sort of based it on the bus stops that were in Melbourne around about the 70s and 80s, where they used pebble mix as the backing.
Put an old bus stop in the home's garden.
There's little Ethel.
Where the Alzheimer's could sit for
hours.
It's
another one of my favourite shots where the characters just slowly dissolve on in a tragic sort of way. The rain. This is the first time I've ever animated rain. We actually used glycerine, which we stuck to the glass and then blew down with a straw, frame by frame. It's about as exciting as watching paint dry.
Especially when the local church group visited.
This is a real song which a friend of mine used to sing to me when we were drunk, and I thought, oh, I've got to put that in a film somewhere. So here it is, sung by the fantastic Julie Forsyth and the Elwood Primary School. Those little Headleys in the wheelchair took us weeks and weeks to make. This is where I wished I had the use of CGI to replicate them instead of having to make so many of them. Harvie loves his hallucinations.
After these magical episodes, Harvie would get extremely depressed and was
That's another one of my favourite shots. Those little Prozac pills are actually artificial sweetener tablets stuck in a urine specimen jar.
He wished she'd visit more.
Just realised a little fault there. If you look at the envelope, it's actually got a stamp of England. But Ruby's actually in America, so
one night,
don't send me mail. There's some more sweetener tablets. There's morphine.
But life had one more challenge for Harvie.
This is poor old Wilma and her very large goiter. I wasn't quite sure where to put the goiter, but I thought on her neck would be the best.
She had a cancerous goiter and was embarrassed to leave her room during the day.
Wilma's German and I don't know why.
They sat and spoke long into
I was very worried when we started shooting these parts of the film because they are the most poignant and tragic, and I always worry that I might be getting a little bit too sentimental and sad, but hopefully they work.
Wilma had decided she needed no more.
They're Harvie's two and only words in the whole film, done by one of Melbourne's greatest actors, John Flowers.
He took off his clothes and went and sat in the morning sun.
This music is my favourite piece of classical music, and I'm so glad I've actually been able to put it at the end of one of my films. It's very uplifting and at the same time sad.
He knew it would never come, but he didn't mind.
And the final quote in the film, I'm very proud to say, is my own, and if I'm ever remembered for anything, hopefully it is this quote. With the credits, we decided to put little stills of each of the characters, and we had a lot of fun choosing which character would go with which person who helped in the film. There's lovely Julie. We're so glad now that Harvie's finished and out there travelling to film festivals and being broadcast on all sorts of TV stations in Europe and America. And we've been really sort of surprised and proud that Harvie's actually engaged and connected with so many people all around the world. He's, I suppose, a very universal character, and I think everyone can empathise with his struggles and what he finally concludes at the end. But yeah, we're very happy and thrilled that he's out there enjoying his life, finally. Looking at these credits, it reminds me of just how many hours and how many years went into making it, and it's sort of bittersweet for me. I think of very sort of strange statistics, like how many tubes of superglue we used and how many frames were actually shot. I think there's over 30,000 individual movements that we had to do. Also reminds me of things of moments where, you know, it was very difficult, especially shooting in summer. At some point I was animating in my underpants because it was so hot in the studio, and then in winter it was bitterly cold and the plasticine was almost frozen. I think also at this point of the film I'd like to especially thank my two lovely assistants, Michael Baisley and Sophie Raymond. And of course, coming up soon, I think, is my fantastic producer Melanie Coombs, who was right there from the beginning and is still with me now. And there's me, little parrot.